This is a criminal case that once shocked the entire United States. A pregnant mother and her 2 young daughters mysteriously disappeared overnight. After the incident, the police quickly mobilized but still couldn't find them. When everyone was at a dead end, a small detail revealed the horrifying truth. At the time, Judge Kopau exclaimed, "I've never seen anything like this. This is probably the most cruel and vicious case among the thousands I've handled." So, what exactly happened that year? Let's travel back to 2018 to review this case that shocked America. The town of Frederick and the family's life. Frederick is a quaint town in Colorado, USA. Initially, the area produced coal, attracting many immigrants to settle. But since the coal mine closed in 1928, the town gradually declined, only showing signs of revival in recent years. According to the 2020 census, the town's population is 14,513, a 67.22% increase from 2010. This peaceful town first gained widespread attention thanks to the story we're telling today. The main character is Shanann Watts, a woman with a caring husband and 2 adorable daughters. She was successful in both her career and family life, making many people envious. The mysterious disappearance. In the early morning of August 13, 2018, Shanann, 15 weeks pregnant, had just returned from a business trip. Her close friend Nicole Atkinson drove her home and reminded her, "You have a prenatal checkup this morning, don't forget." But strangely, by daytime, Shanann seemed to have evaporated from the world. She didn't reply to messages, didn't answer calls, and missed her scheduled prenatal appointment. At 12:10 p.m., Nicole Atkinson couldn't wait any longer and anxiously brought her son to Shanann's house to look for her. The house was at 2825 Saratoga Trail, a spacious 5-bedroom home. Arriving under the scorching sun, she saw Shanann's car still parked in the driveway, meaning she couldn't have gone far, but the doors and windows were tightly closed, and knocking and calling yielded no response. She checked the doors and windows. Everything was intact, with no signs of break-in. Looking through the windows into the house, she also didn't see Shanann or the 2 children. The initial search. Feeling puzzled, Nicole Atkinson immediately called Shanann's husband, Chris Watts. Chris was an operator at Anadarko Petroleum, often leaving early and returning late. He said he didn't know the situation. When he left for work around 5 a.m., his wife and children were still asleep. After hearing about his wife's disappearance, Chris rushed home. While waiting, Nicole Atkinson reported it to the police. At 1:40 p.m., an officer arrived to investigate. Chris had just gotten home. He opened the door and invited everyone inside to check. The house was empty, doors and windows intact, no signs of damage. Everything seemed normal. The only odd thing was the missing bedsheet on the bed. Chris said his wife probably took the kids out to play and would be back soon. But upon closer inspection, Shanann's wallet, phone, and daily medications were still there. This was highly unusual. Who goes out without a wallet and phone these days? Moreover, Shanann was a brand promoter for a nutrition company, needing to stay in touch with clients 24/7. Chris Watts' statement, the police turned their attention to Chris, asking, "Did your wife say anything before you left for work this morning?" Chris recounted, "I got home at 2 a.m. She was sleeping. Wanting to discuss separation, I woke up at 4 a.m. We talked amicably, but lately we've had some emotional conflicts, both feeling down. To relieve the tension, she said she'd take the kids to a friend's house, but didn't specify which one. Around 5:30, I left for work. I called her midway, but no answer. I thought she was still mad, so I didn't think much of it." The statement sounded reasonable. A couple arguing, the wife sulking and going to a friend's without her phone. The police checked street and neighbor cameras to see when Shanann left the house. But oddly, no cameras captured images of Shanann and the children. Only footage of Chris backing his truck into the garage at 5:27 and leaving at 5:45, meaning Shanann and the kids never left the house, as if they vanished into thin air. The police asked neighbors. No one had seen them. As night fell, a day passed with no news. The news of Shanann and her daughters mysteriously disappearing from home spread quickly through the town. Residents buzzing, some even suggesting supernatural causes. The entire town was shrouded in unease and fear. The expanded investigation. To prevent panic, the next day the FBI and Colorado State Police joined in. Dozens of officers with trained police dogs arrived at the Watts home for a thorough search inside and out. Regrettably, the dogs couldn't track the three. Chris cooperated fully during the investigation, even accepting a TV interview. In the interview, he said, "I've never seen anything like this in my lifetime. It's like a horror movie. Doesn't seem real at all. It's like I'm living in a nightmare I can't escape. I just want them home so bad. I was hoping I'd open the door and see the kids running in, barreling into me, but it didn't happen. It was a traumatic night being here. Shanann, Bella, Celeste, if you're out there, just come back. If somebody has them, please bring them back. I need to see everybody. This house isn't complete without them here. Please bring them back." Chris hoped his wife and children would return safely, suspecting kidnappers, and begged them to release the three. Everyone sympathized with him. The police intensified the search, posting flyers everywhere, but no progress. This bizarre disappearance case, with media exposure, was no longer confined to the town. It caused a stir across America and even worldwide, becoming a hot topic of discussion. People eagerly awaited Shanann and the children's safe return. The police were under immense pressure and decided to investigate Shanann's personal background first. Shanann Watts' background. Shanann was born on January 10th, 1984, in New Jersey. Later, her family moved to North Carolina. She was beautiful like a doll, with bright eyes that always warmed hearts. Her parents called her a gift from God, but fate wasn't kind. At 25, Shanann was diagnosed with lupus, an incurable chronic disease. In the same year, she suffered a serious car accident, worsening her condition. When she was nearly in despair, she met Chris Watts online. They chatted often and became soulmates. Chris helped her through her darkest times, regain confidence, fight the disease, and her health improved. On November 3rd, 2012, the loving couple tied the knot. They then moved to Frederick, Colorado, and bought a 5-bedroom house. On December 17th, 2013, their eldest daughter Bella was born. On July 17th, 2015, their second daughter Celeste was born. The 2 daughters made Shanann stronger, and the couple's relationship grew even better. She loved sharing her life online. "Hi, everybody. Hi. Say hi, everybody. Hi, everybody." and he's the best thing that's ever happened to me. Financial pressures. Though the family was harmonious, they weren't financially well off. In fact, they were struggling. The couple's combined annual income was about $90,000, not little, but still not enough for their heavy expenses. Monthly, $3,000 mortgage, $600 car loan, plus $70,000 in credit card debt, student loans, and medical bills. In July 2014, they were sued for not paying HOA fees. Under the pressure, on June 5, 2015, Chris filed for bankruptcy. At the time, their two bank accounts had only a pitiful $3 and $6. Despite the financial strain, Shanann's love for Chris remained passionate. In 2017, she posted online, "On June 11, 2018, the couple learned they were expecting their third child." Shanann excitedly told Chris. Chris was also happy. They found out it was a boy and named the unborn son Nico. Marriage issues. From the investigation, the police learned Shanann was cheerful and kind, loved life and family, so the chance of her running away with the kids was very low. So who took the three? How did they avoid the cameras? The police interviewed Shanann's friends and family about any recent unusual behavior. All interviewees coincidentally mentioned the same thing. Shanann's marriage had serious problems lately. In text to friends, Shanann cried that Chris didn't want the third child and said they weren't compatible, better to separate soon. Shanann's mother, Sandra, said, "Initially, Chris was a good father and husband, their relationship great, but recently Chris seemed like a different person." On June 27th, Shanann took the grandkids to North Carolina for vacation. Chris refused to join, only coming after 5 weeks. One night, Shanann vomited all night due to pregnancy, but Chris was indifferent, showing no concern. Sandra found it strange. He used to be caring and gentle. She even told the police she suspected her daughter and grandchildren's disappearance was Chris's doing. Coincidentally, Chris's change started when Shanann left for vacation. After that, they talked a little, gradually stopped speaking. Even when meeting, no kisses or hugs, becoming familiar strangers. Shanann was anxious, constantly confiding in friends about her pain, worrying Chris had another woman. And indeed, as she feared. Evidence of infidelity. After checking Chris's communications, the police discovered he was indeed cheating with colleague Nicole Kessinger. Chris lied that he was divorced to deceive Kessinger into dating him. The police found the timeline during Shanann's vacation. July 4, Chris invited Kessinger over, they had relations. July 7th, they chatted late into the night. July 14th, date at the Shelby American Car Museum, overnight at a nearby hotel. July 30th, before going to North Carolina to reunite with Shanann, Chris wrote a love letter to Kessinger. August 4th, Kessinger bought a wedding dress online. August 7th, the Watts couple ended vacation and returned home. August 9th, Shanann went on business to Arizona. August 11th, Chris hired a babysitter, left the kids, and dated Kessinger again. Actually, they had been involved for a while. Chris's phone had thousands of Kessinger's photos, many explicit, hidden by software, but police recovered them. Chris was a master of time management between old and new loves. Moreover, police found he had a one-night stand with Amanda via a dating app around February 2018. Amanda said Chris was very rough and violent in bed. Police suspected Chris cheated multiple times in the marriage. various clues showed he no longer loved his wife. Suspicious details. A detective skilled in psychology, after carefully watching Chris's interview footage, pointed out doubts. Throughout the interview, he appeared very nervous, eyes darting around, hands often crossed over his chest in a typical defensive posture. When mentioning his wife and children, he habitually used past tense, as if certain they wouldn't return. Shannon's friend Nicole Atkinson provided 2 suspicious details to police. On the day of the disappearance, when she wanted to report and track Shanann, Chris tried to stop her, saying he didn't want police involved. Second, when viewing surveillance footage, Chris acted unnaturally. Usually calm, he became agitated, seeing himself backing into the garage, pacing with arms crossed, appearing extremely anxious, as if a secret was about to be revealed. These details raised high alert for the police. The neighbor who provided the footage said, "Never seen Chris back the truck into the garage like that before. This was the only time, very abnormal." On the day before Nicole reported, only Chris entered and exited the house. It's possible he tampered with something. Interrogation and confession. On August 15th, the 3rd day, police brought Chris to the station for formal interrogation. In the room, Chris sat with legs crossed, expression relaxed, composed. Asked about marriage and infidelity, Chris denied. "I've never cheated in my life. She's always been trustworthy, I've always been trustworthy. If we ever thought about straying, we'd tell each other before it happened." The interrogation was almost seamless. He firmly denied cheating and said he did nothing to harm Shanann. If not for prior evidence, police might have believed him. An FBI agent in psychological analysis, after repeatedly watching the footage, noticed Chris subconsciously touching his neck when discussing the disappearance. Based on this body language, the agent boldly guessed Chris might have strangled Shanann. In the subsequent polygraph, were you involved in Shanann and the children's disappearance? Do you know where they are? Did you argue or have physical conflict with Shanann? Chris denied firmly. But the polygraph score was -18, far below normal. When told he failed the polygraph, he became visibly agitated, showing pain and struggle, finally confessing. "I lost it," Chris sobbed. He explained that morning, suggesting separation upset Shanann. They parted unhappily. Going downstairs, he heard the children's cries. Returning to the bedroom, he saw Shanann strangling the kids to death. Facing this, he lost control, strangled Shanann until she stopped breathing. Since the garage connected to the house, afterward he backed the truck in, wrapped the bodies in the bedsheet, loaded them, and hid them near an oil field owned by his company. That's why Shanann and the kids never appeared on cameras. Discovery of the bodies. The story sounded absurd. A family-loving, pregnant mother killing her own 2 daughters. Anyway, Chris admitted to killing Shanann. Police followed the truck's GPS to the oil field 100 kilometers away, used drones to search and photo, finding the missing bedsheet clue. They showed Chris the drone photos. He marked 3 spots. Wife and kids are there. Police found at the desolate oil field Shanann buried in a shallow pit covered by a sheet, the 2 children stuffed into small-mouthed oil tanks. Forensic exam confirmed all three died from asphyxiation. Shanann had neck bruising, hyoid bone fracture, a nearly 4-centimeter tear inside her mouth. Bella had a clear wound on her left buttock. One tank had a strand of blonde hair from Chris roughly shoving her in. This showed Chris's handling of the bodies was extremely brutal. Officer Tammy, seeing Shanann and the kids' state, was almost certain Chris killed them all. If impulsive, a father wouldn't cruelly stuff his poor kids into oil tanks. This isn't something a father would do. Trial and sentencing. Police charged Chris with 3 counts of first-degree murder, tampering with evidence, etc. On August 16, 2018, the first hearing for the Watts murder case was held in Weld County, Colorado. The courtroom atmosphere was heavy. Shanann's father gave a heartbroken speech. The judge noted, due to the case's severity and for public safety, Chris would not be allowed bail. Facing numerous evidence and victims' accusations, Chris still refused to plead guilty, insisting Shanann killed the 2 children. At the second hearing on August 21, 2018, he pleaded not guilty to all charges. To get Chris to plead guilty, Shanann's family said they wouldn't seek the death penalty. "We've already lost 4 lives. We don't want to see more deaths, even if he's a heartless killer." On November 6, 2018, Chris reached a plea deal with prosecutors, admitting to killing his wife Shanann and his 2 daughters. In exchange, he was spared the death penalty. Given the case's severity, the presiding judge said, "The defendant coldly and deliberately ended 4 lives. This wasn't impulsive or accidental, but a meticulously planned, nauseating act. I've never seen anything like this. This is probably the most inhumane and vicious criminal act among the thousands of cases I've handled." Ultimately, Chris was sentenced to 5 life terms, plus 48 years for unlawful termination of pregnancy, and 36 years for 3 counts of tampering with evidence, totaling 84 years. Though escaping death, he's destined never to leave prison alive. Shanann's father's words. After learning the verdict, Shanann's father said to Chris, "Shanann, Bella, and Celeste and Nico were loving, caring people. They loved life, loved being around people who loved them. But God only knows what happened that night. Life will never be the same without Shanann, Bella, Celeste, and Nico. They were taken by a heartless one." This is the heartless one, the evil monster. Who dare you take the lives of my daughter, Shanann, Bella, Celeste, and Nico? I trusted you to take care of them, not kill them. And they also trusted you, the heartless monster. And then you take them out like trash. You disgust me. Let me tell you something. I will think of them every day of my life, and I love them every day of my life. Prison is too good for you. This is hard to say, but may God have mercy on your soul. I hope you enjoy your new life. It's nothing like the one you had out here. May the courts have no mercy on you. Motive and truth from prison letters. Chris refused to confess the motive, so it's unknown, but based on clues, guessed he wanted to escape the family for a carefree life with his lover. The case seemed to fade after the trial, but unexpectedly, in September 2019, a book titled Letters from Christopher, The Tragic Confessions of the Watts Family Murders, exposed some sealed truths to the public. The author, Sherilyn Cattle, collected letters Chris wrote to her from prison through correspondence, and compiled them into a book. In the letters, Chris revealed details even police didn't know. His actions were premeditated, extremely depraved. The truth in the letters. On the morning of August 13, before discussing separation with Shanann, he went to the girls' rooms, trying to smother them with pillows. Later, the two girls miraculously woke up. At the time, he was arguing intensely with Shanann and strangled her neck until she suffocated. The awakened girls asked, "Daddy, what happened?" Chris replied, "Mommy's sick." Then he loaded them all into the truck and headed to the oil field. At the time, Shanann's body was right under the children's feet. The poor kids were too young to know their mom had passed, and soon it would be their turn. Upon arriving at the oil field, Chris smothered the younger daughter Celeste, all witnessed by older daughter Bella. Bella cried, asking, "Daddy, will I be like my sister?" Chris didn't answer, then cruelly killed the older daughter. The girl's last words were heartbreaking. "No, Daddy." Additionally, in the letters, he admitted attempting to poison Shanann to cause a miscarriage. He did all this to escape the family and marry his lover, Kessinger. Seeing this, many people probably can't control their anger. Just thinking about it sends chills. This also confirms the police's guess about the motive. Social reflection. Failed marriages are increasingly common. If you can't get along, just divorce. Why choose such an extreme way? Even tigers don't eat their cubs. This is the darkest side of humanity. Chris's cold-bloodedness and ruthlessness are chilling. I wonder what he felt when he saw his daughters gradually lose life in his hands. In midnight dreams, does he hear his wife and daughter's bloody accusations? But that doesn't matter now. The lonely prison bars and deep night shackles are his best fate. His remaining life will slowly fade in regret and solitude. This is perhaps the best punishment for him. Unbelievably, imprisoned Chris received many love letters. Several women wrote confessing love, even attaching their alluring photos. Some said Chris had one of the friendliest faces they'd seen. Others called him a good person, deeply attracted, etc. This is truly baffling. Actually, such things aren't rare. In cases we've mentioned, like Scott Peterson, Devil's disciple Richard Ramirez, they all received tons of women's love letters, some even marrying in prison. Cultural legacy. The Watts family tragedy was later adapted into multiple films and shows. Among them is the Netflix documentary American Murder: The Family Next Door, premiered on September 30th, 2020. The documentary used a lot of real footage to recreate the entire case process, explaining the deep family crisis hidden beneath the calm surface. See you next time.